Call to order the Ashland Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Thursday, April 8th, 2021 at noon. We'll start with the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Lord, we come this noonday with thankful hearts for our fair city. We ask once again for divine wisdom on this Board of Mayor as we strive to make the right decisions for our city. We are thankful for the positive direction that our city is going in recent days, and we ask blessing and favor on our city manager, our staff and employees, our citizens, and those in attendance today. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion to receive and file the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearings and reports. Commissioners?
You want to start with those?
Well, I'll wait until the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I have
Quite a
written
bit.
out comments because I'm very excited about today's meeting, and I knew if I didn't write all of these things down, I would ramble like a fool. So, thank you to all of you who are here in this room today to see firsthand the Palmer Engineering Study Report. Many of you were with us when we went to Greenville, South Carolina, and got to see their incredible transformation. Thank you all for being champions of downtown redevelopment. Take this off while I'm speaking. Downtown redevelopment and helping educate others that whole city revitalization begins in our downtown. We won't have a thriving business climate and viable neighborhoods without a living, breathing downtown. That's where we start. Yesterday, Commissioner Blanton and I participated in a stakeholder meeting with Downtown Strategies. Commissioner Spriggs participated in the session in Catlettsburg. Downtown Strategies is part of the larger group Retail Strategies that recently entered into a contract with Boyd County Fiscal Court for retail recruitment. The court was kind enough to include Catlettsburg and Ashland in their endeavor and brought Downtown Strategies to host a workshop with downtown stakeholders, offer step-by-step recommendations, and a branding plan for downtown Ashland. Jen Gregory and Elliot Cook, who were the consultants, quickly realized that Ashland had already done all of those things. We're already a step ahead of where they were coming to help us. So they were pleasantly surprised with what they saw, and they mentioned several times how we are doing the things that we should be doing, and we are on the right track. So you, all of us, are to be commended for that. They intend to rework the scope of their contract to fit our needs, and I'm really grateful for their willingness to be nimble. The entire exercise yesterday was a testament to the importance of communication and collaboration. To quote Judge Cheney, we are better together. I mentioned last meeting about the work going on at the Highlands Museum and Discovery Center, and yesterday the Destination Ashland team had the privilege of getting their sneak peek of the Clark Family Discovery Center. I feel safe in saying that Destination Ashland was beyond impressed with the plan and the work so far. We all know that the museum is an important piece of the redevelopment puzzle as it will provide activities and enhance a downtown destination. Another important piece of this puzzle is also on our agenda today for discussion. Thrilled to see the discussion about 1401 Winchester Avenue and our plans for that. We all know this has been a long time coming, and if I'll stop talking, we'll get there quicker. But I want to clarify this because I think it's important. Everything we're doing to revitalize downtown is steeped in best practice. It's not because the five of us and city staff say that we think this will be neat. We think this will be great. These are proven practices that have been effective in cities like ours all across the nation. We're not the only ones who are trying these things. They're not new ideas. It's proven. And I think that that's important. We're not trying to be Greenville. We're not trying to be those places. We're trying to be the best Ashland that we can be. So I'm honored to be part of this transformation with all of you. Those of you who started this work, and some of you are here, Commissioner Spriggs, Danny Craig, Larry Jones, Chris Pullum is back there somewhere. This has been a 2-decade-long endeavor. Kim Jenkins, you've all been part of it. Rest assured, my mission, and I think the mission of the rest of this commission, is to see it through. And we're we're going to get it done. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
I'm going to stand up just because, well, I'm excited, really, because like Commissioner Clark was talking about yesterday when I got home, it was kind of one of those evenings you get home and you just crumble and you try to recover from the day. But this morning, started thinking back on it and just all the different things that happened yesterday. And I thought, wow, this is literally why I did this. So it's, we have, and I was so proud of the way we spoke throughout the day, City Manager, Commissioner Clark, and members of Destination Ashland, because throughout the first 6 months to a year of that group is all about education, and is all about teaching ourselves how to revitalize the downtown area. And yesterday, we spoke from that standpoint, and kind of subconsciously maybe, or without realizing it, but as we were speaking to people about our plan, we're speaking the language of revitalization. And kind of this morning, I started thinking about that. Wow, we're really speaking what we learned. And so that's extremely important. And, that's, when I moved back here in 2015, and started to learn more about the city, it seemed sometimes we would have, people who were passionate about some things, but a lot of times the city was on its heels with things. We weren't proactive and pushing things. We didn't have any excitement about things. Now you're going to see an excitement. You're going to see people standing up and telling you why things are going to happen. But it's not just excitement. It's data. It's behind what you're going to see today is exactly. I mean, I went into this thinking, I'm going to watch it. But the data that I saw out of this it was one of the better simulations and studies that I've seen, even in the manufacturing world. So it was excellent, and I came out of it thinking, there's no other answer. So please take the time to look and consider what's presented today. Think about it for yourself. Ask questions, give input. Obviously, this is, we're open to listening, but please consider the information that's presented. Other than that, downtown Ashland, I heard a story yesterday about someone that's in our new office space, in the second floor space on Winchester, and a lady who's renting an office space there who lives in Huntington. And she runs a business that helps small businesses get started, basically. And she said, well, I came to Ashland to find an office space because this is where things are happening. This is where the small businesses are going to be. So I want to find my market here. That wasn't a biased point of view. It wasn't her knowing people or whatever. It was her making a business decision to be here for her own business. So I thought, what better example for the track that we're on right now. So going into something like this, we understand the feeling going into it, but that's why we really want to go into it with an understanding that this is backed up by data. And you have a group here and a city leadership that's also that's not afraid to stand up and be confident and excited about the plan that we have. So that's what you're going to see today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see everybody, and I want to tell you I'm just so thankful for this beautiful day that we have today. And I'm also thankful for those tomcats. And I have to say I'm thankful for our city water workers who attended these recent breaks caused by flushing the hydrants in such a timely manner. So, and I know the citizens of Ashland are appreciative of that, and especially unexpected, unavoidable things when there's no snow or ice on the ground, So, but I wanted to bring this up. Well, first of all, let me say this. I want to reiterate what Commissioner Blanton and Commissioner Clark said. This is such a terrific time to be living in Ashland, and those of us who have been advocates for our downtown change for a long time are thrilled. The future's here. We have persevered. We have sound ideas to build on, but it's thrilling to be able to see this come to fruition in such a marvelous way that I think will make our downtown just beautiful and functional in a very good way. But anyway, I was pleased to be able to attend that meeting yesterday in Catlettsburg and listen. We want to thank Boyd County for including us in that. It will be some invaluable information for us. I have one other thing, and then we can get on with it. A letter to the editor in the paper caught my attention, and it's from SOAR, which is an acronym for Shaping Our Appalachian Region. This is all about broadband. I think you know that, and you've probably heard of Kentucky Wired. But we're living in a golden age of broadband, and there's plenty of and broadband funding. But to be in a position to apply for and receive state and federal broadband funds targeting underserved and underserved areas, data from sources like the Kentucky Broadband Speed Test are critical to show the clear path to where broadband is needed most. And however, right now, Boyd County and Ashland's response rate is below where it needs to be for this data to be utilized. Counties unable to hit 4% response are likely will not be competitive for future grants, funding, and compared to other counties and cities across the state. So this little test takes about 45 seconds. If you will go on your computer and log into speed test, all one word, speedtest.ky.gov, and take that speed test. You will be counted. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors to do this. We certainly need to be included in any kind of grant money that comes for us to get broadband here. Thank you.
Commissioner, I'm going to add just one part to that statement.
Sure.
If you do not have internet access at your house, if you can go to somewhere there is internet access, the public library, public school, those sorts of things, and tell them you need to do that speed test, that way we can correctly count the people who also do not have internet access.
Yeah, you know what? And put it on your Facebook page. It's just speedtest, one word, .ky.gov. And I did it. It's very simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Good?
I just want to welcome everybody to our first noon meeting of April, and we have a full agenda with much exciting news, so I won't belabor it, but it's just exciting to be on this board at this time. It's exciting to be on the same page, and I'm thankful for all of you all and us working together. A lot of you out there in the audience, you're my dear friends, and as I go around town, I see the investment made, EB and Kim and the parks and so forth, and so it's very exciting. It's always refreshing, and me and Commissioner Blanton went to Pam's Primitives. We went to ribbon cutting, and Ashland Alliance has, of course, sent us all. There's a bunch of ribbon cuttings in this month and next month, so that's always a good sign. I just want to give my kudos to the water department and also to the fire department. I had my granddaughter this week. I'm a little bit more, there's a little bit more gray here. I have an 8-year-old granddaughter from Louisville, a little redheaded girl. And so it's refreshing to see what out-of-towners say about the town. And she was just awestruck with Central Park. She loved Central Park, going to Central Park, going to get ice cream downtown and so forth. So we walk our dogs about twice a day, and she was on a walk with my wife going around the corner, and she said, "Gigi, the ground is gurgling over there." The ground's gurgling. And then all of a sudden, about a minute later, a 30-foot geyser came out of the ground, about 30 foot up in the air, and she said, "Wow, Central Park was fun, but this is great, Gigi. This is great." I said, "I didn't know Ashland had geysers." And so, but the water department was there, and the fire department was there in a matter of minutes. And so I'm very, very, very thankful for them. I want her memories to be about Central Park, not on a water line break. Okay. So thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, Commissioner Good. You know, our agenda is packed with good things. You know, seeing our downtown revitalized is a top priority of this administration. It's the heart of our city. While we can appreciate what once was, we must decide now what we want to do for the future. Citizens have told us they want change, they want things to do, they want more festivals, they want dining and shopping and concerts. But no city can thrive without a vibrant downtown. Make no mistake, just like a patchwork quilt, each part of our city must be given the attention it needs to hold up. And just like that quilt, if one patch's stitching unravels, the quilt loses its usefulness. This is why we must work together, government, citizens, businesses, all of us, to see that we keep ourselves together to make our city a place of comfort and prosperity. Taking down buildings, changing direction on streets, adding parking spaces, these are parts of our commitment to turning a new chapter. I believe it's impossible for us to ask anyone to invest in our city if we don't invest in ourselves. This truly is an investment in our future today when we look at this agenda. And I ask that each of you step up and join us to make this next chapter a success. I know that we can do it together, and we are doing it together, and I thank all of you who have worked in the past to get us to this point. It's critical that we have your continued support moving forward. I'm excited. I think we got a lot of good things going on, and with that, we'll get started with our business. I do have two proclamations today that I do want to read. Matt, will you come on up? First off, let me thank you on behalf of the commission and the city for the great work you did during, and your team has done during the ice storms.
Yes.
I cannot imagine the stress and pressure you all were under during that time to take everybody's calls, handle them calmly, and direct them to the people that needed to be gotten to. So it's with great pleasure that I do have a proclamation today that says, whereas emergencies can occur at any time and require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas where an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics are critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers, our firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Regional Public Safety Communications Center here in Boyd County. And whereas the public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers. Whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Regional Public Safety Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. So therefore, I, Matthew B. Perkins, Mayor of the City of Ashland, do hereby proclaim this week National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Ashland, and we honor the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Thank you, sir. Picture together. Do you mind, Michelle? Open it up. Yeah, get on the end there.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you so much.
See you again in the morning.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. That's right. It prohibits discrimination in housing and declares it a national policy to provide within constitutional limits for fair housing in the United States. And whereas the principle of fair housing is not only national law and national policy, but a fundamental human concept and entitlement for all Americans. And whereas the National Fair Housing Law during the month of April provides an opportunity for all Americans to recognize that complete success in the goal of equal housing opportunity can only be accomplished with the help and cooperation of all Americans. Now therefore I, Matthew B. Perkins, Mayor of the City of Ashland, proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in the City of Ashland, and do hereby urge all citizens of this community to become aware and support the Fair Housing Law. And I want to thank again our housing coordinators. They do a great job, and I appreciate them, and I know we all do as well. And the folks are not here today for this other proclamation, but I do want to make it be known that I've also declared this week National Public Health Week. And I can't say enough good things about our Boyd County Health Department. The phenomenal job they've done in the past year under COVID to make the public aware of what they need to do to be safe, to protect each other. Also a very stressful job this year for them. And I know that Commissioner Goot serves on the Boyd County Health Department Board. If you want to make a couple comments.
I just am so proud of that board. They've been through a whole lot, and they've had their plates full, especially with the COVID pandemic and so forth. Maria Hardy does a wonderful, wonderful job, and she'll be leaving in August. She'll be retiring, and it's a great team out there. It really is.
Yeah, Maria's led that department for a long time, and she's provided us with a great service. We hate to see her go, but she deserves a good retirement. Yeah. All right. With that, we'll move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Pretty long list of things here. I'll try to plow through them real quick. For everybody's knowledge, the staff is not absent today. They're not persona non grata. They graciously went back into your conference room, Mayor, and available if we have any questions. But it's great to see all the people that are in the crowd today. Obviously a big day, as everybody's mentioned. And it also struck me as you were talking, Mayor, and the commissioners, how term transparency gets thrown around a lot, and I think it gets misused a lot. And as I look at today's agenda, as I hear the comments from you all, it makes me realize how transparent that you all have driven the city to be, and that how that city staff that's tucked back in there has worked really hard to be transparent about everything. Look at how our agendas have changed, Mayor. The emphasis on the fiscal notes, it really helps people understand the implications of what some of these decisions are. So again, it struck me, I just jotted that down before we started, and I thought it was worth pointing out, and thank you all for your leadership on that. A couple of things you might have noticed that the Broadway Square fountain has been down for a couple of weeks. There's another issue with the pumps that are in there. The pumps are just very, very powerful. This is still under warranty. We hope that it'll be fixed today, but I just wanted to let you know that's on our radar and we're working that. In regards to personnel, we have started the process of hiring seasonals into our authorized positions. So we're feeling a little bit more comfortable about where we're going financially, and the so what to that is you're going to start seeing us. The big thing is that we take some of the workload off the people that have been plowing very hard for the past year, when we're about 30 people short on a staff of 300, so about 10% short. As a city manager, I can see those cracks in some of our personnel. They really have given it their all, but getting back to our authorized strength is really important. And a reflection of that will be today, Central Park, which we've had limited hours for the past year or so. It has been 7 to 9 p.m. It is now going to go back to the original hours of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. in Central Park with the addition of the seasonal. So thank you to the Parks, Finance, HR, and everybody for facilitating that. Recycling, Mayor or Commissioners, you gave me a task last week to take a look at reopening the recycling point. We're putting a bid together for that, and we hope to get that out pretty soon. One other note before I introduce Mr. Sewell, firefighter applications we had open a couple of weeks ago, and we realized in retrospect we had an error on one of the listings of the job requirements, that the limitation was age 40. It in fact is not a cutoff of age 40. Because of that, we're going to reopen the window for firefighters for a week. We're not just limited to age. Anybody can reapply, just to be even across the board. And with that, I'd like to move into the introduction of Mr. Sewell. Hopefully this is not too repetitive. It'll be pretty brief. As Commissioner Clark pointed out, there's been efforts on this. I thought it was around 15 years, but what you've stated is 20
Well,
years.
2 decades. Covers
traffic
15
flow.
years.
and- So, just to kind of sharpen us and pull us into how we got here today, as Commissioner Clark mentioned, Ashland Alliance sponsored that trip down to Greenville, South Carolina in the spring of 2020. Thank you, Commissioner Clark, for spearheading that. If you'll recall, if you watch these meetings on a regular basis, Commissioner Clark came back, gave a report to the Board of Commissioners. Ashland Daily Independent picked up on that article, or excuse me, picked up on that, had an article about it. And in the realm of things coming together nicely, Terry Sticking with Iowa got a hold of us almost immediately after seeing that newspaper article and said, hey, some money just came free on a grant, a 100% grant to do studies for things of this nature. The city of Ashland got a $250,000 grant that enabled us to get to the study today. And again, it's because things just lined up the right way. So I want to thank Terry for having her head on a swivel to see that for the city of Ashland. In the fall of 2019, the city attended the Kentucky League of Conference presentation. We saw Roger Brooks. I think we've talked about this pretty extensively in here. We were able to get Roger down with a grant, $20,000 grant from AEP. We all drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Again, to Commissioner Blanton's point, it wasn't just the Kool-Aid, it was the data, it was the analysis, the synopsis of looking at not just hundreds, but thousands of other cities and how they met success. And that led into initial conversations. The $250,000 grant was monitored and enabled by the Kentucky KYTC. KYTC picked Palmer Engineering, who's represented here today by Steve Sewell. Steve came in and had some initial planning sessions, and I'll just say some of those sessions were very interesting at the very beginning because it was really critical to get the scope of what we were trying to do. And if you're really having, as Chief says all the time, courageous conversations, you say things that people don't necessarily agree with. But again, I think when you have those blunt conversations, you get to a product that you see today. It's not perfect. I want to remind everybody, it's a preliminary study. We still have to do final engineering on this. But it's really, again, everybody's excitement is palpable, and I think after the community sees this, they'll see why. Again, I'd like to introduce Mr. Sewell. If you please come up, Steve. And I would respectfully ask if there's not anything not urgent, allow him to finish his presentation, because I think he's going to scratch all those itches as part of the presentation. And if he doesn't, then we'll have plenty of time for questions. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Sewell.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. Not that there's any pressure on me now. That I've heard all these great things that you all have talked about, and now you get an engineering presentation here that's, I hope, delivers what you all are excited about, and what I'm excited about. I will say, I think I've told several folks here how excited I am about where we've gotten to with this concept. So I'll talk a little bit about what our study involved. What we did was we took and looked at what the existing conditions are out there today. We looked at traffic volumes, we did traffic counts, we did travel time studies of how long it takes to drive Winchester and Greenup today. That would be used to compare with this concept that we're looking at. We also looked at crash analysis. I know you all have had some fatalities with pedestrians here. There's been numerous wrecks at some of the intersections. So we looked at that information. And then we took all that data, looked at traffic simulations, all this existing data that we do as engineers, and we took that and developed a solution that we felt, multiple solutions that we felt would improve the downtown and met the goals that you all needed. So one thing I will talk about is what was the objective of the study. The big thing is we wanted to reduce Winchester Avenue from 4 lanes to 2 lanes between 13th and 18th. That was the goal. And this mission statement study objectives kind of came out of our stakeholders, everybody talking. KYTC was involved in this, Kiowa was involved. And we wanted to also not impede the flow of traffic in downtown. We still wanted people to be able to get to where they're going, but at a slower, more traffic calming, improve the safety of the downtown area. We also wanted to increase the walkability of the downtown, and which would help with revitalization of the businesses, and then also increase tourism. So this is where we are today. I'm not going to say this is won't morph over time, but I think it covers the objectives that you all were looking at. So with that, parking was a big consideration. how much parking is there out there today, how much is being used, and how much could we increase it, or how much would it stay the same? I mean, would it stay, we want to make sure we at least maintain what we have. So you'll see that there's 3 different levels here. So we counted, ultimately in this study area, we have about 800 parking spaces, 799 to be exact. But you'll notice that there's 3 different colors there. There's a green, there's an orange, and there's a red. And those relate to the different ratios of what is there versus what is occupied during a normal business day. We did it from a noon to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, I guess, time frame. And you'll notice that there's definitely a central location of where parking is being 100% used, or mostly used. And then on the outskirts you have the green, which is not being as utilized as heavy as in certain areas. So, but of that, we had right at 200 parking spots that were used. Now, I will say that we did include a parking garage down in the back corner there on the bottom of the thing that has roughly about 419 spots that today it is private, but we did include that in our study, and only 29 of those were being used, so it wasn't a lot being used there. But that was something we did include. So with that, with the existing data we gathered, we developed 2 options, 2 alternatives, I'll call them. Alternative 1, reduce it to 2 lanes. It had 14-foot driving lanes. It had pull-in angled parking, which is more like what you see in a typical, in some downtowns. You just pull into the spot, and then you back out when you're ready to leave. And then one of the things we wanted to also do was increase a bicycle lane through here. Now, with the limitations of doing parking, the angled parking on each side, we weren't able to get a bike lane in each direction, but we used a sharrow, which basically the bikers would have the same rights as a car would in the lane. They would just drive down they would ride down the road just like a car would. And then we maintained signalized intersections at 13th through 18th, just like you have today. That wouldn't change. It would be exactly the same. So with that, we did have to look at 13th of adding a right turn lane. Just with the number of people going across the bridge, that was something that had to be added. As I mentioned, signals at each intersection. We were able to increase the parking with pull-in spaces. Not a lot, but we were able to do that. We did have bulb outs at the intersections, which will reduce the amount of time that it takes for a pedestrian to cross the road. That will provide a safety benefit there. And we did look at a mid-block crossing on this alternative also. That was between 15th and 16th, I think, if I had that right. So I know this map is hard to see, but alternative 1, that's kind of a conceptual alternative of what the corridor would look like. Now, this is kind of a simulation that shows what it looks like. You'll notice the bus pull off at front of the theater. You'll see the angled parking. You'll see the shortened, where the bulb outs are at the intersections, so that you have the short pedestrian crossing. As we go down, there's the mid-block crossing that we looked at between 15th and 16th. The new configuration on 16th there, and as you get down to 17th and on down to 18th. This is just kind of a rendering of what you would see with alternative 1. As we go to alternative 2, I will say I was a little bit nervous about proposing this at one of our meetings, but I did feel pretty strongly that it would work. Alternative 2 also provides 2 lanes in each direction, 1 lane in each direction, 2 lanes total. The lane widths are a little bit narrower than with the other one because of the raised median in the middle. Now, this one has back-end parking, which is essentially the same thing as parallel parking, but easier. What you do is you give your signal. As you come up to your space that you want to back into, you pull past the space, and then just like with parallel parking, you back into that spot, but you're not having to worry about how close you get to the curb. You're just backing into the spot. And with most cars have cameras today, it's relatively easy. But the benefits of this are when you go to leave, all you're doing is looking to your left. If there's not a car coming, you're pulling out. You're not having to worry about back out into traffic, some car coming down through there, it's just like leaving a spot, your parking space. There's also benefits for the businesses of when you're backing in. If you go to the store, you want to buy something, you're going to put it in your trunk. You come out, there's your trunk. It's right at the sidewalk. You're not walking out into traffic trying to get out and load your car and worry about a car coming by and side swapping you or something like that. There's another aspect of this one in that we implemented roundabouts, many roundabouts at the signalized intersections. With that, this is kind of a rendering of that. They would have a 50-foot circle from outside to outside. You would have a 15-foot lane for the cars to drive around. The median in the middle is mountable. So if you have delivery trucks and trucks want to come up and turn left, he can still do that. He goes up, he drives through the roundabout. His trailer can go up over the median. A car, you wouldn't want to do it in a car, but if a bigger truck can go up on that. So we put those at each one of the signalized intersections except for 16th Avenue. Same thing with this one. You have the right turn lane up at 13th. 16th goes to a stop controlled with alternative 2, that the side streets would stop, but Winchester Avenue would still be able to free flow. We also have the pedestrian safety of the bulb outs there. And we had the mid-block crossing in alternative 2 also. So like I said, this is hard to see. We can blow this up if everybody wants to zoom in on an alternative. But this is this is the same rendering that you see, what it would look like with the mini roundabouts at the intersection and the raised median and the back-end parking on this concept. One other concept or benefit of safety for a door opening, and it came up in one of our conversations, is if you have small kids, when you open your doors, a lot of times if you're pulling in, you open the door and the kids can just, if your kids are like my kids, they just run. But so the doors would open and the kids would be able to go out into traffic. With this one, you would open your door and the doors would actually act as a barricade to go into traffic. They would have to go toward the sidewalk. So there is another safety benefit of that for parents with smaller kids, and it's just an added safety benefit. So we had our discussions internally. We came up with, as part of the study, we wanted to come up with a preferred alternative. So naturally, we call it Alternative 3. Alternative 3 is very, very similar to Alternative 2. There is just minor differences to it.
I'm no Vanna White, as you can tell. Your job is safe.
So, with Alternative 3, what I want to show you is there's really two separate areas that are different. This is one up at between 13th and 14th. What we have done is we've added parking, it's parallel parking across from the theater there.
Thank you.
Along the hotel, or not the hotel, in front of the hotel there, where there's existing parallel parking today. And the other thing we have done is we've taken 14th Street and we've converted it back to two-way. And we put parallel parking on there rather than pull-in parking like there is today. And the reason that is when we started looking at traffic volumes, there is a lot of traffic in the afternoon that comes up Winchester Avenue, hops over, and gets on the bridge to go across the bridge. So having that with the through traffic using Greenup, moving over to Greenup and using it more as the through area rather than going down Winchester, which the volumes, the models and everything don't show that changing a whole lot. But if you want to get through the area, this would be a way that you could get up to the bridge. You would be able to come up 14th Street and go across the bridge. And you would also be able to, if you're coming off the bridge and coming into downtown, you could use that as a way to get down to Greenup too. So we felt pretty strongly that would, for efficiencies of moving traffic in the area, it would be a benefit to convert that back to two-way. The other area on Alternative 3 is at 16th Avenue, or 16th Street there. So 16th Street was very difficult. We tried to find a way to put a roundabout in there. I mean, I tried hard, I promise. And, but with the new improvements that you all have made there, we didn't feel that taking that out and putting that under construction again was a good thing. So we made it stop controlled in alternative 2. There was some concerns about safety and would people be crossing across Winchester Avenue, even though it's just 2 lanes instead of 4 now, would that be a safe route to do? So with this option, we have closed that median. So if you're coming up 16th Avenue from Greenup and you wanted to go straight through, you would make a right, go down to the roundabout, and come back up to 16th. Same thing if you were on Winchester Avenue and you wanted to turn left to go down to Greenup on 16th, you would go down to 17th in the roundabout, go all the way around the roundabout and come back to 16th. This is something that we can obviously discuss and it can be refined as we move into final design. This was just a way of another option that we wanted to present and to try to make this as safe, area safe, and keep traffic flow moving. So from a traffic analysis standpoint, I'll hit this really quick. Level service is the same thing as like in your grades in school. A is good, F is bad, C is average. It's kind of what our goal is as engineers, as we try to keep everything as a C or better. Everything in the downtown area today is an A or a B, except for when you get up to the bridge at that crossing, and you do get some ease there, which everybody is setting that traffic and understands that this project doesn't do anything to fix that. I will say that. This is totally separate. Although I would be glad to help you all fix it at any time. So when we reduce it down from 4 lanes down to 2, and we compare the 2 alternatives, the signalized intersections, you'll notice there that there is a D at that intersection, but with the roundabouts, everything is an A, B, or C. So there is, and that D is because there's a pretty significant volume of cars that come up that way, and keeping traffic moving on Winchester Avenue and the side streets have to wait. So it's not anything that can't be fixed with either option, but the roundabouts do keep traffic continuously flowing. So from a level service standpoint, everything is good with either option that we want to go with. From a volume to capacity is like based on up to a 1, and typically if you're only halfway, this chart just kind of shows that everything we have is below half of what it could handle at a maximum situation. So traffic, it just reiterates that traffic is not a problem with what we have. Now, we have 2 simulations here. These are the PM. This is in the afternoon. We did traffic counts in the morning and traffic counts in the afternoon. And the PM was by far the busiest. What you'll see here is the PM starting at where the split is at the northern intersection coming down. We'll go to the bridge in just a minute. You'll see the congestion there. And then it shows the alternative, the 2 alternatives and how traffic would flow in the downtown area with these proposed changes. There's the bridge location at 12th and 13th. You'll see the cars do queue up to turn left onto the bridge. It queues back through. It should show you queuing back through 12th Avenue. And then with the signalized, this is the signalized alternative. You'll notice that cars are having to sit and wait. So if you're on a side street, you're sitting there waiting for to get the green light. There's not a whole lot of queuing. It's just a matter of you're sitting there waiting. As we come down through 16th there and 17th, and then it'll spin around. And but you still see that reducing it down to 2 lanes is not going to cause traffic congestion in the area, which was the important thing that the Transportation Cabinet wanted to make sure of. And you'll see green up over there on the right side of the screen there. And as we pan back up the corridor, It'll give you it gives you a visualization of what traffic would look like. And these are traffic volumes 20 years in the future. I will say with the growth rate and everything, I know that historically the volumes have stayed relatively the same in over time. So that is something that we did use here. I think as you were all talking about today, with the revitalization, hopefully those volumes increase, but there's still plenty of capacity. Even if you doubled traffic for 20 years in the future, it would still work.
Just one point to reiterate, we'll wait to get to talk the question. Those cars moving on that simulation, that is real data.
That is real data.
Measured by-
That is data. We collected the traffic counts in the field. We put those into here, and yes, that's real. Those volumes are real-time volumes. Now, I will say they were collected during COVID as part of this, but one of the things we did was we actually put daily, we gathered volumes for the whole day, or whole week actually, and we compared the daily volumes to what last year and 2 years before had been, and there was a little drop, but at that time, a lot of the traffic had returned to, we did wait a little bit till things kind of returned to normal. So, I think, let me make sure I went to the, yeah. All right, so here is alternative 2. Same simulation, same times. All this area up here on 9th and 10th, this area, nothing changes, it's all the same. I think the exciting thing is when we get down to just past the bridge and you see the roundabouts and how traffic is flowing and how you're not sitting there waiting for the light to turn green. As we go through, you'll still see that there is a backup from the bridge at this area. Yeah, so there's the bridge, 12th and 13th. And then you have the roundabout at 14th and 15th that show up there. You'll see this one leaves 16th open. It does keep that median open there on this alternative. But you'll notice on the side streets there's nobody waiting. If we could zoom in a little bit, you would see the cars pull up and just yield for a second and then go. And then it will pan around and go back up just like the other one did. But with this alternative, essentially nobody is stopping. Everybody is continuously flowing through the corridor. So the big question that everybody asks is, what is the cost? And what you'll see is that alternative 1 is slightly cheaper than alternative 2 and 3. Alternative 1 is, I think, 2.5, roughly $2.9 million if you add right-of-way and utilities in there and design. The total cost of the project would be right at 2.9. And with alternative 2 and 3, you're at 3.5. So it is a little bit more expensive, and that's due to, with the alternative 1, you're not replacing the signals. There's not as much work there to do. Utilities, I mean, there's a little bit of impact with utilities, and the design is essentially the same, but there is no right-of-way with these alternatives. Where do we go in the future? I put these in here as kind of some steps of where to go. The final report has been completed. It's been submitted to the KTC. It's been approved. So the next step would be either doing an encroachment permit with the Transportation Cabinet, doing an MOA with the Transportation Cabinet, and obtaining the funding. We have discussed numerous funding opportunities with this through the Transportation Cabinet, through Kiova, through your all's local funds also. And then to do the design plans, and then get to a construction bidding, and then the exciting part of seeing it built.
I want to ask, this might sound silly, but are the centers of those circles raised? People will be able to drive straight through
No.
them, right?
No,
Okay.
they are raised.
Okay.
Now, they're raised about, typically your curb on the, if you're driving down the side of the road, is about 6 inches. You know, they're vertical curbs.
Mm-hmm.
These would be at an angle, and they would raise, you can do anywhere between 4 and 6 inches. So they're raised enough that if a car drove across them, you wouldn't want to do it. But if a truck wants to track up on, like if a big truck with a trailer is going up on it, it would be able to go up on it and go around.
Steve, can you also mention the air quality impact of roundabouts versus stop signs?
Right. So we didn't do a full air quality analysis as part of this study, but all research and everything shows that with cars continuously moving, not sitting there, not exhaust fumes going in one spot, that air quality would improve with the roundabout option over the signalized intersection. So that is, I know you all have to maintain your attainment and all that. So there is a benefit for the roundabout and alternative 3 from an air quality standpoint, which is important for downtown with people walking through the area. And did I miss anything, Michael, Steve?
Covered it. I had one.
I did want to add a couple, well, at least one other thing. Simultaneously looking at this, and again, very cautiously optimistic, Mayor and Commissioners, and to the community about funding on this. And I alluded to the fact that some of the initial meetings with KYTC were interesting. They were interesting because KYTC gets paid to move traffic. And they've got something here, as Steve said, that they rate very highly on that. So we understand their desire to do that. And I think there was some cross-body language at those first meetings. But I think when they looked at the data, like Commissioner Blunt is talking about, I think it's something that we knew intuitively, or people that have lived here, you know the power of Greenup Avenue as a true, bypass, and also the fact that Carter is no slouch itself when it comes to moving traffic. So anyway, looking at this, Finance has been working diligently on the budget for 2022. We're giving them a lot of moving targets to consider and deal with, a lot of other moving factors, ARPA money, et cetera. But tentatively right now, we also intend to tackle the streetscape from 13th to 18th Street. So we've got blotches down there of excellence with the streetscape that's been done 12th to 13th Street. Imagine that the rest of the way down Winchester. So if you get in front of the Highlands and the old museum, the new AP building, you still see the old silver Cobra head lights. Those were replaced by the acorn lights. That drops the electrical lines into the ground like we've done in the other portions, and then some of the other accoutrements, the benches, the trash cans. So it really pulls that all together into a cohesive picture downtown that looks as nice as what we've done between 12th and 13th Street. So again, there's a lot of moving parts on this right now. To emphasize, it is preliminary and we'll have to go to final engineering. But because KYTC, they're not as concerned about the economic impact. They're concerned about moving traffic. And when they saw the safety parameters that Steve hit, they got pretty amped up. And they're pretty excited about trying to help us with funding. Again, no promises, but we're very optimistic about getting a large percentage of this funding.
I will say that the guy who runs the Transportation Cabinet's safety program, highway safety program that they have, he got real excited about this. He actually called it the trifecta, I think was the word he used, because he has been looking for a corridor where he can implement the mini roundabouts, the back-end parking, and do a road diet, which a road diet is taking 4 lanes down. A lot of times you see it go down to 3 with like a turn lane in the middle, 1 lane each direction. We wouldn't have that here, but to go from 4 down to 2 and implement the other 2 things with it, he has discussed that he would like to see this as even a pilot project for the entire state, something that they would be able to, people would come here to look at and look at implementing. So he got a little too excited about it, which I was good with. So
Another thing on the roundabouts and the conversations that the elected officials had on the preview of this and other people that have been privy is, we all have a scene of Chevy Chase and vacation in Europe and not being able to get off the roundabout. And I think we've all had experiences with that. One of my sons lives in North Carolina, and they've got a multi-lane roundabout that can be very confusing. as Steve has educated us, this is a mini roundabout. It's one lane. It's very intuitive. You think about single lane roundabouts versus multi-lane. It's much more intuitive and less threatening, I think, to the public.
Yeah, and I will say that they are relatively new to the state. There is one getting under construction right now over in Moorhead in Rowan County. And there's two other ones that are under construction right now in the city of E-Town. And they are looking at actually doing 13 total. So I think they're going to get the first two. And so there will be a preview that we'll able to look at lessons learned from those as we do them. So.
Mayor has also mentioned before the concern about how the construction goes about. This will all be a KYTC plan, Mayor, that will be managed. Concerns about receptions on 29th Street and that construction. As Steve points out, Steve Cole, it's a 2-lane, we're very limited down there. This is a current 4-lane plus the curve, so the traffic management plan will be very well thought out as part of the final plan to have the least impact on businesses and also our citizens.
Okay, there's a lot more room. You could shift traffic to one side, work on the other, because you can shift traffic over to the 2 lanes, and there's a lot more flexibility here than what you had down there.
So speaking of time, how long does it take? Do you project that it would take to complete this from start to finish?
I knew somebody was going to ask.
If she didn't, I was gonna.
I envision it being one construction season. So, I mean, construction season is typically March to October, November timeframe. Each one of the roundabouts is usually, I mean, what we've seen is that you can do those in 45 to 60 days easy. So doing multiple of them at a time, it'll take a little bit longer, but I still feel that you would be less than 6 months. I mean, of impact. That's my personal opinion. I mean, the contractor may get done quicker than that, but there's not a lot of there's not excavation. I mean, you're just redoing the curbs and you're doing some sidewalks. The streetscaping elements is something that is part of that also, and there's a time for that because you can't just tear all the sidewalk out in front of a business where they have no access. You have to kind of do this part and then do that part. But I feel very strongly that you could do it in one construction season for sure.
And one other element of that also is utilities, and Steve, Mr. Cole are both looking at the current water lines we have down there. Remember, we took the opportunity on 29th to replace those lines that are brand new now. We really statistically don't have a large issue downtown on Winchester. We have had a couple of car accidents since I've been here. So that'll be another part of our analysis is there something we did, pun intended, deep
Yeah.
dive to
Yeah.
tackle the part.
And one of the things that I will say that we will definitely do as part of this is to coordinate with the other utility companies so that 30 days after we get this thing
Yeah.
open and built that something doesn't happen. So, I mean, there's always things that are out of your control, but at least coordinate with those folks and make sure if there is some repair that they have in the next little bit that we go ahead and get that done now.
Very good, thank you. Any questions, commissioners?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I do. Not so much questions, but clarifications.
Grab your mic. Grab your mic.
Oh. So the level of service number, and I think we talked about this before, that's an important metric to me to show that effectively it's the metric to show that flow is going, the service through the area is going to be good or bad, I guess. And so when people look at this presentation and those ABCDs, that's what that means. So, going through this from the safety aspect, the flow, traffic flow, that's the part of it for me. Back-in parking. So in manufacturing, we've had back-in parking for a long time for safety reasons. You pretty much hit on everything for the back-in parking, why cities do it. And by the way, on all of this, and I'm going to talk about this more, but look around. If you're looking for other examples, they're out there. Roger Brooks, we've learned about other examples, but a quick Google search will tell you what other cities are doing around the country and why they're doing it. And you can also see the success that they've had after they've done it. Pedestrian crossing. So pedestrian crosses have roundabout, they're just going to wait and then cross, essentially, right?
Yes, so with the roundabouts, at a signal, you know, you have cars that stop. With a roundabout, you know, cars are continuously flowing. They're pulled back a little bit away from the intersection, but you don't have to cross. With a signalized intersection, you have to cross both lanes. With a roundabout, you have the island in the middle that you can cross one and then cross the other. So it's a two-step process. You're only going half as far that you have to go. And those islands are raised so that the pedestrians feel protected, but
Yeah.
yes.
And to reiterate the fact that the simulations you showed, you measured that data. I mean, that's literally, and something I know I'm repeating myself, but that's so important to me because we're looking at even a scaled-up version of what our traffic would look like in this scenario. Extremely important to me. So that's that part of it. So now, we've been learning for almost 2 years now what this would do for our businesses and for our atmosphere and our culture downtown. So that's the part of it. And if you listen to any kind of downtown expert, that's why these cities are doing this. And we just talked to some yesterday, actually, and one of their first questions was asking about this, and we were like, come to our meeting tomorrow. So that part of it, we've learned for almost 2 years now why you do this from a business standpoint and a walkability standpoint and all those factors. So for me, framing the issue of traffic flow and safety, which you've done an excellent job of, thank you for doing this today, and then also the business, the whole reason for Destination Ashland is what this reinforces. So for me, framing it in those two contexts is very important. Thanks.
So I'd like to ask Mr. Gracie, at some point we'll be able to have this up on our website. And the other point is, do we have a plan yet for public meetings, for public input on this?
That will actually be, we can absolutely put that on the website. I don't think there's any problems with that from a proprietary standpoint. And part of the final design will include public hearings.
Good.
Absolutely.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Much.
Yay.
I'm going,
I'm gonna turn these people loose if they wanna.
yeah.
Feel free to go.
I'm going to give some of you a pass. If you all would like to take this opportunity to vacate the meeting, you're more than welcome to do so. Otherwise, we do have some more items to discuss. At this time, we do have public participations for items not listed on the agenda. Anyone with a comment or request may come to the podium and address the commission concerning matters related to city business, services, or personnel. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes, and at my discretion, I may ask that we end discussion and move to the next agenda item. So with that being said, do we have anybody that would like to come forward to have a public comment? Not seeing any today. We'll move on to old business.
Item A, old business, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement between the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the City of Ashland for participation in the design of the Dawes Street Rehabilitation Project at a cost of $49,000 to be paid by the City of Ashland in matching funds.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item B, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement between the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the City of Ashland for participation in the design of the Winchester Avenue Streetscape project between 7th Street and 12th Street and 18th Street through 21st Street at a cost of $50,000 to be paid by the City of Ashland in matching funds.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item C, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, adopting the revised job description for the positions of Maintenance Worker 1 in the Division of Streets and Maintenance Workers 1 and 3 in the Division of Floodwall, all in the Department of Public Services, of the Policies and Procedures Compensation Plan and Classification Plan, as adopted by ordinance number 51, series of 2017, as previously amended.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Consent agenda, a resolution of the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting, authorizing, and approving the course of actions presented by the city manager on the items appearing on the consent agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of City Commissioners of April 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, new business. Item A, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute Amendment Number 1 to the Electrical Engineering Design Services Agreement between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and MAG Services LLC for the water pump station generator installation project, adding design services for 4 additional pump stations locations at a cost of $15,900.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I do want to just make note here, this is one of those moments where we have lessons learned. And from our issues with the ice storm, we do lose power not only to our homes, but also to critical infrastructure. And this is a insurance policy, if you will, to make sure we've got electric going to our pump stations so water does not become compromised.
And Mayor, if you allow me, we have 21 pump stations, and it's exactly what we faced during the crisis. This will get to 12 of those pump stations. The other remaining, the delta between the 21 and the 12, will be addressed with other further upgrades, et cetera. And to engineering and utilities credit, this was on the original bond that they were looking at, some of the crisis. And so thank you all for funding that and prioritizing this, because like you said, we really felt it during the ice storm, and it's a bite at a time getting ahead of these so that we don't have those type of failures again.
So in this part of our emergency preparedness plan, that this will happen again. I mean, you know it
Absolutely.
will at some point, so.
Some way.
And we've had, there's other mechanical failures
Yes.
and things of that nature, and
We'll be
so
addressing those
this
as-
just gets us quicker there. And again, I think the team's done great with what they've got.
Fabulous.
But dragging around a generator from place to place, some don't have the hookups. There's just a myriad of problems that exist with these, and this is a methodical, step-by-step way to get to these.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay.
Item B, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and improving Phase 6 of the Glaylow of Ashland LLC Apartments and authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the Phase 6 approval regarding the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Section 8 Project-Based Voucher Program for the Department of Community and Economic Development."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item C, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to submit the FY 2021 grant application for American Rescue Act funding in the amount of $1,149,331 to the Federal Transit Administration on behalf of the Ashland bus system for operating costs, preventative maintenance, paratransit service, maintenance, payroll, and capital expenditures, and further authorizing and directing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary for the implementation of this grant."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Kudos.
Yep.
I think it's very important that we go after every dime that's out there and available, and thanks to staff for watching out for these things. If you're watching and don't have an agenda in front of you, just so you're aware that if awarded, this grant will cover 100% of the Ashland bus system operational costs, and typically we have to come up with a 50% match for that, and that eliminates this match, so that
Also-
helps.
Yeah,
Yes.
so at this time, how much money do we have in grants that we've received just for the bus system this year? Do you know?
Michelle?
This year, we have about $3 million available to us right at this time.
And that's one thing I wanted to point out. I mean, we see these on a regular basis applying for grants, whether it's fire department, et cetera. Everybody's trying to do it. Finance has got this down to an art on the TTA stuff. I mean, they're being very aggressive about it, and Michelle's number speaks for itself.
Well
So
done.
kudos to
Is
finance.
that the largest amount total for grants that we've ever received in the bus system, 3 million in 1 year?
My memory, yes, but the AC
Well, regardless,
We won't hold you to it. Good job.
I
Yeah,
agree,
great
great
job.
job.
Yeah.
With this, can we use it on actual, any expense? Is there limitations to this grant?
They want us to use it for payroll and operations.
Well, I'm just spitballing here, but, you know, one of the things that we'd worked on in the past was adding service to Saturdays, first of the month was, I think, what we came up with due to budgetary constraints. Would you all consider adding Saturday service for the rest of this fiscal year, at least every Saturday having our bus system available?
I think if the funds are available, I have no issue with that.
Yeah, no, is that contingent upon getting this grant? Is that what
It
you're
would be
saying?
contingent.
Okay.
And with
Yeah.
the city manager's council, with the finance and the.
I think it's a great idea, Mayor. Can you just give us a week to look at it? And then I think there may be some other variables to consider with that, but absolutely gives us a heck of a lot more flexibility. And I think statistically, the success of those first Saturdays is, I'd have to ask Tony Michelle and the team, but statistically, I think it's been successful.
You know, one of the biggest issues that continues to face some of our folks is transportation, and not everybody works Monday through Friday, and I think this enables maybe some folks to get to their jobs on the weekends, and instead of just one Saturday, I'm not just thinking grocery shopping, I'm
No,
actually
no,
thinking
it's-
for
you-
employment purposes.
You and I have discussed several times, for a city our size to have a transit system is unheard of
Yeah.
anyway. But if we are going to have one, and I say this collectively, I think we are committed to running an efficient and effective, there's no reason to be running buses in places and for people that aren't using them. You know, we've talked several times about, you know, rerouting and using those where they're needed, when they're needed, and a Saturday route is needed. Evening routes, in my opinion, are needed, and I hope that we get to the place that we're able to provide those, because I think if we're gonna operate it, we have to operate it efficiently and effectively for the people who live here.
Yeah, and I can't thank our bus drivers enough and our paratransit folks enough. They were also critical during that ice storm, getting our citizens back and forth, and I just want to publicly thank them. If I haven't done so in the past, I regret that, but they were excellent in every way.
Yep.
And I appreciate all that they do. Any other comments?
Are we staffed okay down there? Or do we need drivers?
We do need drivers. We've actually put out a job ad about a week ago with some drivers. We need the full-time position. We have someone retiring, and we need part-time position.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item D, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky Authorizing and Approving Change Order Number 2 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and Orders Construction Company, Inc., increasing the contract amount by $50,076 and authorizing and approving change order number 3, decreasing the contract amount by $3,220.10, resulting in a net increase of $46,855.90 for a contract for the construction of the Ashland Water Treatment Plant Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System for the Department of Engineering.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item E, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky designated 15-minute parking spaces in the 1400, 1500, and 1600 blocks of Winchester Avenue and the 1700 block of Central Avenue, and providing a penalty for the violation of this ordinance."
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second. But I want,
Any discussion?
I want a sort of a public explanation for this.
So we had as you all know, we run a traffic task force that takes suggestions from the community, wherever it comes from, to look at changes in traffic patterns, parking, et cetera. And this is one of the observations. I think it generated in impact with COVID and when the businesses were first starting to reopen for business. And we have challenges downtown parking, as we know, and so in order to increase flow, to have separate spots marked specifically for 15 minutes only allows a better flow on those spots. So if somebody's going into Wits just to pick something up, they park, they're gone. We still have an enforcement challenge, to be frank. That
was my question.
It has to deal with our manpower. I'd like to, and I've discussed this with finance, do the same approach that we're doing on the seasonals to get that parking enforcement back down there. Because to be frank, people are parking their cars down there all day long right now and not moving them. So a combination of the enforcement of the 2-hour and then also the implementation of these 15-minute park and goes, we think that will be the best thing for the downtown.
All righty. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item F, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the revised web services sales agreement between the City of Ashland and Revised LLC in the initial amount of $8,400 for the first year and $4,700 per year thereafter for a period of 4 years for website redesign, development, and implementation services for the City of Ashland."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item G, reading and adoption of a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order of the City of Ashland, Kentucky providing for leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item H, reading and adoption of a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order of the City of Ashland, Kentucky extending the deadline for filing the annual return for 2020 individual occupational license and net profit fees and payment of fees for calendar year 2020 to May 17th, 2021 due to the extension of the federal and state returns by the United States and the Commonwealth of Kentucky."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Good suggestion,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the only thing I just want to clarify, is that this ordinance been modified to maybe in perpetuity match the federal deadline?
This is just a municipal order doing it for this year only because we're going to have, we didn't get the ordinance done. It's going to have some things other than that, but next meeting we'll present an ordinance that will do a permanent fix. It'll say it's the same as the federal each
Right.
year. It'll also, we have some things that are a little more substantive relating to capital gains and the occupational tax that we want to do at the same time, so that's why it's coming next time.
Okay.
This was the stopgap for this year only, but we'll fix that as we go forward.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
There's a discussion item for 1401 Winchester Avenue, also known as the G.B. Johnson Building, the former Ashland Oil Building.
Yes, I actually asked that we add this to the agenda, just to get the city manager to speak to where we are on 1401 Winchester Avenue and, plans, and I feel like with everything that we're doing here, we've got to keep our ducks in a row in terms of what we plan to do downtown, and so I'm gonna just turn that over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I think today is a perfect time to discuss this because what we see that's coming to fruition that Mr. Sewell presented didn't just start last week. Similarly, I know there's been plans and designs, I think at least back to 2013 for potentially, again, just a thought, a parking lot and also a convention center. So we actually had a couple of plans drawn up. They were swags, I mean, to be honest with you, what they were. They get you really excited, you get amped up about the downtown project, you look at this, and it equally gets you amped up. So we did acquire that building, how long ago, Jim? Mr. Moore, I'm sorry.
7, 8 years, something like that.
That building does own, I think it's within the last couple of years, but anyway, we do own that building. The city owns that. And I'll also say this, the comments that were made yesterday by the experts and also with Roger Brooks and some of the examples of other cities, sometimes cities have to get into land acquisition to improve where they're going. And if you hear the Greenville talking points, they did that incredibly aggressibly.
Much of the development in Greenville was from city-owned property.
And so I think it's, at least for me, initially it makes me, bad description, it caused me a little bit of caution at first, But I think we own that land, and if whatever we do with it, whether it's what I described, a parking lot, and we've talked about parking in a convention center, we know we need a convention center here. I think the vision of whoever was on the board, in 2013 and preceded that to get that going, they had that vision. So we need to get it torn down. Mayor, per discussions, we'll get a bid out on that to get a cost estimate. So again, we can try to get that into our budget cycle and see. Finance is very creative about coming up with opportunities and things that people that don't have that background think about. It can be bonded. You can look at a TIF. There's a variety of different things that we could look at. But the bottom line is we need to know a number. You all need to know a number of what we're dealing with. Finance needs to know a number of getting that torn down so we can turn it into whatever it's going to be.
I don't, I'll just throw out my comments and you all feel free to agree, disagree, jump on whatever. I think that we absolutely need to move forward with tearing that building down. I think we need to move forward with building a parking structure and a convention center. And I personally am not wavering on, I want to know what that will be, period. And am not necessarily willing to take an alternative.
We'll do that.
Okay.
The first step is getting the bid to tear down the building. I suggest that we can have some working sessions with the staff and also include the public on this for some of the discussions, and then try to move it towards more of a design type thing and analysis. I think that company came in yesterday is going to give us a lot of benefits for the data.
I think so too. A lot of what they're going to work on is the market analysis and sort of the gaps in our market. And I think that will help us in terms of acquiring developers and those sorts of things in order to see building there.
Yeah,
It is
fills
all.
in a lot of blank areas
Yeah.
that we have right now, so, yes.
Okay. I get.
The questions I've heard about convention center, there's already potential for conventions right now without the convention center. Randy's
Yeah.
done a lot of good work already, so
Yeah.
we don't even have one yet. There's already potential.
To add to that, we have bid on the SOAR conference for this year in October, which
What
would
conference?
SOAR, the SOAR conference.
Oh, great.
We are one of 5 that have bid. I think and Brandy's here, she can speak to that too. I think we'll find out in a week if we've hit the top 3 in order to present to SOAR to do a presentation to win that conference. And that's 1,200 people that will be at that conference here.
And I just know when I was district governor of Rotary, I was in charge of doing a district conference. I tried my best, and I know Chris Pullum, wherever he is, remembers me asking so many times, what can we do? I'd like to have it in my hometown. I'd like to have it right here. We've got a lot of things to offer. And, it really lightens my heart. I had to have it at somewhere else, Shakertown, because I couldn't have it here. Now we have a great hotel. Part of our jigsaw puzzle is that convention center. And I really feel so good about this. It is all positive for us in every way. So I'm hoping that everybody feels the same way because, it's good to feel really great about things that are coming together. And being so frustrated before and not being able to do things here that I want to do. And I know other people had the same thing. There are lots of ways that we can take advantage of a convention center and our lovely hotel and our new streetscape. It's going to be great. So we can go on and on, right?
I think financially, this is probably more of an opportune time than ever. Because we are facing potentially inflation, to be honest with you, moving forward. And rates may never be as good as they are now. Secondly, that building is no longer useful. It's no longer safe,
Yeah.
and we own it. And it's filled with asbestos. And it totally is our responsibility to take it down. We would ask any other private property owner to do the same. So I think us moving forward today with this, getting this bid out, shows our commitment collectively as a board that we're moving forward. And we know there's a lot of great history in that building. But again, to my comments earlier, we're having to make our decisions for our future. And I appreciate you all moving forward with this.
And you know what else? I think this just gives people a lot more reasons not only to come visit here, but to come live here and see the great things and the vision we have for our city and our citizens. So it's all good.
Well, I'm with you. I'm unified. I'm glad that we're unified in this. And I refuse to take anything less than the convention center and parking garage.
We've got our heels dug in, right?
Just a ballpark, I mean, I'm throwing this out there. I know we're gonna take bids, but has there been any projection of what this may cost?
Commissioner, it'd be very speculative. I can say what the mayor already mentioned, the challenge is going to be the asbestos abatement. And so that'll be a challenge, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable giving a number right now.
Okay.
But we're going to turn this quick. We will turn it very quick so that you will have a number that we can wrap our minds around.
Well, I mean, and not only but for safety. We can't have a building full of asbestos just sitting there and deteriorating and possibly things falling off of it.
It's a
and,
challenge.
you know,
That's
yeah.
been one. Homeless invading the building has
Yeah.
been another. Just the aesthetics of that next to that beautiful hotel is a
Yes.
third. I mean, for all the right reasons, Mayor and Commissioners,
Yeah.
we'll move quickly.
And I'll say it once again for my further comments was, again, we have to invest in ourselves.
We do.
If we want others to invest in us.
Agreed.
And this is no better way to do that.
And just to sort of add to that, we have this great development in that hotel, and next to it is a building that's crumbling that
Yeah,
could possibly
yeah.
affect the hotel.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100%. It is our responsibility to make that safe, to make it decent. We would ask anybody else to do the same.
All right, Commissioners, is there any other business to discuss? All right, well, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.